Hey guys, thanks for coming back to my channel. It's Kevin here, and I have a unboxing slash first impressions of the newest release from Zaharoff, and that is Signature Black Rose Halfeti. And this is all the rage right now in the fragrance community. Of course, you know, Zaharoff is a fragrance house that has been known over the past few years to work hand in hand with PR and YouTubers. And as we know, over the years with my experience with homeworks and PR and YouTubers and just in general on social media, that can be a hot button topic. So initially we saw a lot of praise and talk and hype about this fragrance. And it's a perfect release right now because everybody's wanting to get their hands on rose fragrances right now. I mean, that's when people want them, is leading up into February. And so, of course, that makes perfect sense for this fragrance right now to be all the rage and all the talk, whether it's positive or negative. We saw a lot of hype with this one in the beginning, and then naturally, it's just how things work. We're gonna see a little bit of pushback now. After people have kind of hyped it up a little bit, that's just how things go. That's how things work with this kind of stuff. And this is probably, I would say, Signature Black Rose Halfeti, probably for 2024. We're only a month into 2024. I would say this is the most hyped fragrance so far this year. And so you could probably really just call this the most hyped fragrance of January 2024. And we'll probably have a new one for February and so on. So this one right here is the 4-ounce bottle. I think this is currently sold out in the 4-ounce on the website. I think it's back ordered until late February, which is a shame because, like I mentioned before, everybody's gonna be wanting to get their hands on the newest releases, especially a rose fragrance heading into the month of February. So I think you can still buy the 2-ounce bottles though, but of course, everybody wants this 4-ounce bottle because of the presentation, and we're gonna show you that here real quickly. I'm gonna open this up and we'll talk about my first impressions of the newest release from Zaharoff. Okay, so I've broken into this one, took the cellophane off. Presentation is on point with this one. Okay, oh wow, yeah. Yep, I've seen pictures and I've seen people talk about it online, but it's a whole nother ball game seeing it in person. That is really nice. As far as rose fragrances go, I'm a fan of them. I'm gonna have my top rose fragrances video coming up here pretty soon, so we'll talk more about roses as we get into February. But this one, wow. Just the aesthetic right there is a win for this fragrance, and I haven't even smelled it yet. So I'm gonna spray this on my hand real quick and just kind of get a first impressions view of it and go from there. I haven't even read the notes or anything like that. Well, I'm sure I've read them at some point, but I don't remember them, that's for sure. Okay, oh wow. I heard somebody somewhere describe this as a rose fragrance for people who might not like roses. I gotta tell you, it opens up pretty rosy, in the beginning at least. And almost slightly peppery. Of course, pink pepper is a note that goes hand in hand with rose normally. I don't know if I would call this a pink pepper or not. It's very dark. It almost kind of comes across as a little bit soapy too in the beginning. I wouldn't consider it a fruity rose by any means, and I don't even consider the composition to be real soapy. It just kind of, the rose feels a little bit, it actually comes across a little more darker overall, I would say. Now, I have the original Zaharoff Signature Pour Homme right here. Of course, I'm a huge fan of the house in general. I've tried many of their fragrances. They kind of have a specific DNA in a lot of their fragrances, and that DNA is present in Signature Pour Homme. I feel like it's somewhat present here as well in Black Rose Halfeti. To what degree? I'd probably have to let it dry down a little bit more, get a little bit more wearing out of it to really kind of go into detail on how much I feel like the DNA is present in this one right here. But just here, first impressions, talking to you guys right now, spraying this on my hand, it's a little brighter than I was expecting, but there is a darkness to it, and there is a pepperiness to it as well. I'm gonna kind of let this dry down a little bit and then give my thoughts after the dry down, because right now I'm still in those initial probably top note stages, maybe even leading into the mid notes. I have owned their Signature Rose, the original Signature Rose, which I don't currently own anymore. It was a little bit more, I would say, probably unisex compared to this one. There's definitely a little more masculine feel to this one as far as the overall profile of the fragrance goes. The original always kind of came across as a little bit more of a fruitier rose for me. Definitely fruitier than this one right here. This one, I'm really having trouble getting past that pepperiness. Don't get me wrong, I love it. I mean, I love that pepperiness about it. It kind of just adds perfectly to the rose. They go hand in hand. I don't know if it's a pink pepper or not. I don't want to look at the notes or anything and kind of sway my opinion on it. I'm in that mid stage, I would say, by now. And the rose for me does feel slightly soapy. Not a real jammy rose and not a real perfumey potpourri rose either. It just has a little bit of a soapiness to it, a little bit of a cleanness to it. And it kind of has a little bit of a tartness to it as well. So that tartness kind of feels almost a little bit citrus to a degree. Yeah, citrus, peppery, maybe even a little bit of a soapiness to the rose. And as we dry down here into this, I feel like all of those notes are just kind of hanging around. I really don't feel like we're moving to the bottom stages, the bottom notes of this fragrance yet. But one thing I will say about this that I do actually disagree with is the statement, this is a rose fragrance for people who don't maybe like rose. I actually think you would have to like rose quite a bit to like this one. It's not an old or a dated rose to this. But I could definitely see where this fragrance is gonna be very divisive. And I think just with PR in general, it's gonna be divisive. I never really have figured out why people were so turned off with the PR with Zaharoff. George seems to be a very upstanding guy, seems to be very straightforward, very honest. Very simple, no frills, you know, kind of just somebody, if you were to have somebody, a house collaborate with YouTubers, he seems like the type of guy you would want to collaborate with. Now, to my knowledge, there's only really one YouTuber, from what I've kind of seen, there's only one YouTuber that I think a lot of people have had issues with, and I'm not really even sure why. I haven't really watched his channel much, to be honest. The other YouTubers though, Justin Copeland, he's a guy that I do watch occasionally. Seems to do a very good job as far as describing fragrances, and his channel is very active and he's always putting out new content. And it seems to kind of do things the way that I probably would do them myself if I were more gung-ho about YouTube and doing this as like a 9-to-5 job or something. He probably does it in the style that I would like to do it in. So I relate to him. The other YouTubers, the other Zed creators, as far as the people that are working with Zaharoff, I haven't watched them all that much. So I can't give a real good opinion on those people. I've watched their channels maybe, you know, a handful of times combined with the rest of those Zed creators. So, you know, I know there is a little bit of backlash with Zaharoff and the PR with these Zed creators. So right then and there, I think that's just going to turn people off initially. And that's probably why a lot of people who haven't even smelled this one are probably just immediately not a fan of it. I still really get that tartness of the fragrance here and the rose. I mean, it kind of has a little bit of a cleanness to it, but it's tart. The fragrance overall feels very tart here, and peppery and masculine, and musky even, I would say, in that dry down. Now that we're starting to kind of get into that dry down, a really kind of dark muskiness, masculine muskiness. I mean, if you like your rose fragrances to kind of straddle the line a little bit, I don't know how much you'll like this one. I really think this one is decidedly masculine, especially when you compare it to the original Signature Rose. I would go for that one if you're wanting something that maybe leans a little bit more unisex, maybe even feminine to a degree. Has a little bit of a fruitiness in the original Zaharoff Signature Rose, whereas this one doesn't have that at all. I mean, I like this, and I like it a lot. And I wasn't a huge fan of the original Signature Rose. So just to kind of give you a little bit of a background there, I didn't care for that one much at all, but I like the direction this one's going. And I love the presentation. Kind of give you a look-see of the juice color there. We had a similar juice color. It was probably a little bit more purple with Second Soul from Zaharoff, but they do kind of like to play with their juice colors. I've noticed that, and darken them up a little bit. This one, yeah, that almost kind of looks like grape juice. But yeah, that's a beautiful color. It's got a real nice deep richness to it. A very grape colored, dark, almost leaning to maybe what I would consider a maroon color, just darker even, but that's beautiful. Presentation, they knocked it out of the ballpark. And on first impressions, I love this one, guys. So I'll talk about this one more as we move forward. Probably you'll hear about it this spring as I get more wearings out of it. And I'm sure you're gonna see this one in a weekly wrap-up video at some point. But yeah, first impressions on Signature Black Rose Halfeti. Thumbs up from me, guys. And like I mentioned earlier in the video, I am gonna have my top rose fragrances video put out here pretty soon. Probably expect to see that within the week, I would say. So yeah, that's what's on the docket. We've got plenty of things lined up to talk about. So expect to see that video probably in the next week or so. I appreciate you guys watching. I'll talk to you soon. See ya.